Hey everybody, welcome to Drive Through Review 626. Today we're going to take a look at Warhammer Champions. Now this is set in the Warhammer Age of Sigmar universe, and it is a trading card game. What you're looking at here is one of the 4 starter decks that you can get. So each of these will come with a completely legal deck, and in these decks you get 4 champions, and then you get some blessings, and then some other sort of utility, units, attacks, spells, types of cards to support that. Now, like I said, it's a trading card game, so there's also booster packs, and there's rarities, and there's foil cards, and all kinds of stuff like that. It is a head-to-head 2-player game, so you'll be smashing face and sending your champions against each other and playing cards through your champions. So you deploy some champions out, and then depending on the champion and what they do, you're going to play different units and spells and effects through them, attacking the other player. So it's a head-to-head battle game, similar to like Magic the Gathering or something, but the mechanics and everything are very unique. So let's go ahead and take a look at how the game plays a little bit, and I'll come back and tell you what I think of it. Okay, here you can see I've got 2 of the play mats set up here. So each of the starters comes with sort of a themed play mat within that Grand Alliance. However, I'm going to get rid of it because there's a whole massive bit of glare, but these are very useful in terms of some of the iconography, and then it tells you over here, which is under a bunch of glare, how to play. But these are very, very useful for getting going. But let's get these glary things out of the way, and then I'll kind of walk you through a little bit how the game plays. So here's how you might see everything set up. Now, what is your deck and everything composed of? Well, you're going to have a 30-card deck, exactly 30 cards. You're going to have a number of different types of cards in here. You can see this is a spell. You're going to have abilities, and you can see warriors can play those abilities there. You're also going to have here different units and so on. So these are the different types of cards that you're going to build. You can never have more than 3 of a particular type of card in your main deck there. But everybody is going to have 4 champions, and you're going to take turns deploying these before you even start the game. So they'll start out hidden, and the first player will deploy 1, then the other player will deploy 2, then back to the first player to deploy 2, and then back and forth and so on. Now let's take a look at the champions here. So this fella here, you can see, is a Knight Heralder. You can see he's a champion and he's a warrior. Now you can tell he's a warrior because he has this kind of red border here versus this guy here, which is a wizard with a blue border. So certain ability cards in your deck are going to be wizard focused or warrior focused. Now there are some champions that they'll be a warrior wizard, and they'll have a red and blue border down there, so you can play all kinds of good stuff through them. Now the other thing to note here is the number of points. So this one costs you 4 points. This Liberator Prime here costs you 1. If we take a look over here at Vandus Hammerhand, you can see he's got a U, which means he's unique. You can only ever have 1 of this particular champion, and then he costs 6 points. Now the total cost of all your champions cannot exceed 20 points. And then the other thing to note here is the little red number. So you can see that will actually add 1 to your starting health, whereas the Lord Relictor, in this case, is actually going to reduce 1. So everybody starts with 30 health, and you can see you can track that on the mats here, and they give you these little kind of cool tokens here to track that. And then you're going to add and subtract the health modifiers from all your champions from 30. So you usually start around like 28 to 32 health and so on. And then underneath all of the champions are going to be 4 blessings, and these all have to be different, and they are randomized. So you know which blessings that you have, you just don't know where they're at. And so the reason that these blessings are here is all of these different champions are going to go on quests to activate and then reveal that blessing. The blessings can have a number of different abilities here. So here we have a passive ability, and you can see you're going to gain a certain amount of health, and I'll explain what that little doolywig means there. But sometimes you'll have an instant blessing. So when you activate the blessing, it'll come up, it says 4 damage to your opponent, increased by 5, so possibly doing 9 damage if so-and-so is disengaged. So you're going to pack these up, but you're not going to know exactly who has what. So after everybody's deployed, then you're going to draw cards. The first player to go is going to draw 4 cards off their deck, and then whoever goes second is going to draw 5 cards. And in the rules as presented in the boxes, there's no mulliganing, but I'll talk about it in the review. I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing or even a needed thing. So the turns are very simple. There's no mana, there's no resources to maintain. Everybody simply gets 2 actions. So before you take any actions, you're going to resolve any abilities that you have that say at the start of the turn do such and such. And the way that you resolve abilities in every phase of the game is you're going to start at your blessings row. So if you've activated a blessing and you've got one sitting down there, you're going to walk through all the blessings left to right, walk through all your champions, and then if you have any units or spells up here, you're going to walk through those and then activate those. So at the start of your turn, anything that's start of turn, you're going to walk through and do all of those. And then you're going to go into the battlefield phase and then activate anything there. So we're going to skip that part right now because nothing's been deployed really, and nothing in our champion row is going to activate. And then you get 2 actions to do your turn. So that can be playing these different cards, or sometimes abilities like this Knight Heraldor will have a heroic act, and anytime you have a heroic act, that counts as one of your actions. So this one could say rotate a highlighted Stormcast unit 1 step forwards. So maybe I activate the Knight Heraldor and then I play a card. Let's say those are my 2 actions. Now you can also pass. If you pass any of your actions after you're done taking your actions, then you draw a card for each action that you passed. So maybe you decide to pass both actions, then you just draw 2 cards and that's your turn. But you can't draw cards mid-action phase. I can't pass and draw a card and then play an action. All of the draw cards happen after you're done playing actions. So the first type of action that you can do is you can play an ability card, and you can see this is an ability and you need a warrior to play it. Anytime you play a card, you're activating it sort of through one of these champions. So I can't have this wizard here who's in blue activate that because he's not a warrior. So I can do this here. It's an ability. It says 2 damage to your opponent, increase this by 4 if their hand size is 8 or more. So if they have 8 or more cards, it'll do more damage. So I can play it through this guy here, and then the abilities go straight into your discard pile. Let's put that over here for now. Whereas if I had this ability, like so, you can see this is the ability for a wizard, and I could play it through that fella. Now sometimes you will play units. So if we play a unit here, we can see this is a unit from the little red shield, and we can also see it's a Stormcast unit. Now maybe we'll play this through this guy here because he's a warrior. And why might we play it through this guy? So when we play this Stormcast unit, we're actually going to start activating the Knight Heraldor to take steps on their quest. So if we take a look at this guy here, you can see this will rotate this card. You're always going to be looking at the current upper left corner, so everybody's going to start kind of normally. And since we played a Stormcast unit, and that's what that means, you can see the red shield for a unit, whereas in this case, it's not a specific unit, it's just a red shield, it wouldn't matter. But this one wants you to play a Stormcast unit, so it kind of wants you to play that in his lane there. So once we do that, then we can rotate that card like so. And other things will happen, so like this one here says, this little green icon, so if you do a heal action, then you can rotate it. And then the next time you play a card, it wants to do the spell action. And then it'll rotate again, and here it wants you to do an ability. Now the icons might seem confusing, but that's one of the nice things is just a little chart. If you look here on the playmat, it shows you all that. So okay, that means a heal, etc. And there's a chart in the rule book as well. So that's one of the interesting things about it is you might play a card, okay, I'm going to play this card, do some damage, but maybe the guy that you're trying to play it through isn't quite queued up in the right way. So like this guy here, Vandus, he's not going to rotate until you do some damage through this champion. So anytime you play a card through here and cause some kind of damage, then he's going to rotate, and then now he's ready for a unit. Now there's no reason I couldn't play a unit here if I really wanted to. Maybe some unit will be blocking damage from across the way from the lane over there or something. So it's kind of a balancing act in terms of where and when you're placing all of these things. Now the last type of card here is an Arcane Bolt, and this is a spell. So right now the Stormcast can only play it through this wizard. And so let's take a look at these cards and how they're going to rotate. So we're going to play this down right here. So when we played, let's say we played the Arcane Bolt first. Well, you can see here, this has an X. So when it comes into play here, if it has an X, basically the whole card is shut off. You ignore everything in that text box. So we're going to play that, but we're going to queue it up because these cards are going to rotate as well, and eventually we're going to get to do 7 damage, which is a decent amount. So we play that, nothing happens, but then our second action was to play the Paladin Protector. So you can see he's got a 2, and this says reduce damage received from highlighted enemies by that. So that means whatever happens to be in the left-hand corner right now. And then it says highlighted allied units cannot be removed. So what does all this mean? So we're going to play this, and while this is sitting here, we're going to reduce any damage coming in by this current number because this is currently what's in the upper left-hand corner, so it's going to reduce it by 2. And it's going to do that to highlighted enemy units. We can see down here, we have 3 red squares. And what that means is it's going to be looking across, because everybody has the same 4 lanes. And since it's this, it means directly ahead of him, and then anything to his left and right. So the 3 guys that may be in front of him there, now he's on the end, so this isn't really a great spot to put him. So, but it's going to block any damage from, or reduce by 2, any damage directly across from him and then adjacent. And then it also says highlighted allies cannot be removed. So what that means is, again, anybody to his left and right, but not including him. If it has the dot there, that's sort of the relationship to the rest of the squares. Now, if this was colored in green, it would include him. So he's now blocking anybody here from having a remove effect played on him. Now, when we get back to our next turn, we're again going to do our starting abilities, and then anything that just has a circular rotation symbol like that is going to automatically rotate, like so. Now, again, these guys are not going to rotate because they have that kind of weird one. That means a special thing has to be played, so a heal ability in this case, or a unit like I explained before. But anything with a circle, it is going, at the start of your battle phase, is just going to rotate. So these guys are going to rotate. Now you've reduced the damage he's preventing by 1. It's now only preventing 1 damage. If we take a look at this here, if we had played this Disruptive Liberator instead, when he played him in the first round, nothing would happen. And then when we rotated him, this number would be 1, and this now says 1 damage to your opponent. The highlighted champion cannot deploy units. So if we played him, then the guy directly across from him, whatever lane he was in, then he would lock down that guy, and then he could no longer play unit cards like this. So in the next turn, we're going to do that, and then bam, we're going to do 1 damage. And then on the following turn, he's going to go up to 2 damage, so he gets a little bit better. Now after that, let's say he's here, this is going to rotate and there's nothing in there. Or if it gets all the way back to the starting position, then they're going to go away and they're gone. They're in the discard pile for good. So a lot of these, like this spell, once it does 7 damage, it rotates there. The next turn it's going to rotate off, and then you're going to clear space there. Now normally, let's move over just a bit, you can only ever have 1 card in front of a champion, whether it's a spell or a unit and so on. Now there are some units that allow you to stack on top of other cards, which can be an interesting way to sort of delay things and protect things. Also, if a wizard has a spell, then you cannot play abilities through the wizard because they're kind of busy sort of casting the spell. But if these other fellows here have units, then you can go ahead and play abilities through them. But while the wizard's kind of working on a spell, you can't play abilities through that wizard. Now that's just really the basic core of the game. There's other abilities and things that allow you to move cards around and so on. The last bit is these blessings. So like I said, once they rotate, so this guy in this case, you do a damage, then he'll rotate. You'll deploy a unit, he'll rotate. You play an ability, he'll rotate. You'll deploy a specific Stormcast unit, he'll rotate back. When he gets back around, you're going to reveal this blessing, flip it up, and then do what it says. So this is a passive blessing. It says when a highlighted Stormcast unit leaves play, draw a card. So this is going to, see it's got all 4 lanes are green. So any of these that leave play, you're going to get to draw a card. So this is a nice one to get out early, but remember, you don't know which guy has that. So these blessings will activate and so on. So that's pretty much the game. You're going to play until you knock somebody down to 0 life. If you do run out of cards from your deck, then it still allows you to stay in the game, but you have to just start discarding action cards and then turning active blessings face down. Once you can't do any of that, then you're defeated and out of the game as well. Okay, so that is Warhammer Champions. What do I think of the game? Now, one thing I haven't mentioned so far is that there's going to be an app. Also, it's going to be on iOS, Android, and Steam, and it may be on some other platforms that I'm not aware of. But the interesting thing about that is you're going to be able to scan the actual physical cards that you get in the real world, and then you will own them digitally in the app. And I believe you'll be able to buy cards digitally as well. Of course, they'll just live in the digital world. So that's a kind of an interesting thing. I don't know exactly how the app's going to play. It's not out yet. You'll be watching this probably day before Gen Con comes out when the video releases. And by that time, there should be some kind of beta or closed beta of the app that's a little bit more available. So there'll be more information about that. I think the game is actually very suited to playing asynchronously because there's not really like any interruptions. Like you saw, you do your 2 actions and you can set up and sort of position things for counteractives and preventative defense and things like that, but it all happens within the context and the scope of just your turn. So I think it would be really cool if it was an asynchronous app, because I could see myself actually being really addicted to it. So moving into the review part, this is a really interesting game. So let me kind of walk through my 3 normal points of stuff that I do. Player count, only played at 2-player. Play time, I would say, 15-20 minutes per game. I mean, it's real snappy if you think like playing Magic. Once you get to know the game, it's going to take a little bit. It's weird. Like at first it's really weird because you're rotating cards. There's no mana or anything, and it's just like, okay, I'm doing this here, so when do I play this? And I'm just like, I'm going to do nothing and draw 2 cards. That's boring. Well, actually, that's actually pretty cool, because once we kind of got interested and into the game and sort of worked out how the pacing and stuff worked, then it got really, really interesting. So let me sort of dovetail into that. So if I were to compare it to other trading card games, it'd be kind of difficult. I mean, you've got your head-to-head and you take damage and blah, blah, blah. And it's got lanes kind of like SoulForge, if you ever played that. It's an iOS-only game, which I'm not even sure it exists anymore. But it's not really like SoulForge at all. But again, there's no mana. It's just 2 actions, and that's all you do. You're like, okay, that's pretty basic. And if I pass, I draw cards. And that's really the only action to draw cards, other than sometimes some special abilities that allow you to draw an extra card. But you're really thinking about where and when to play those cards, because you want to rotate your champions through to get at those blessings, which are all really powerful, and they're really gonna, kind of make or break the game. If you can get at 1 or 2 blessings, then it'll allow you to heal a whole bunch of life or do a ton of damage, or like I showed you, the passive ability that allows you to just kind of draw cards as stuff is getting removed. That's just going to be really good to get that kind of extra card advantage. And then so you're also, you're thinking, I'm going to play this card here, and that's going to activate that. Well, your opponent in the meantime is still doing things. They're hitting you in the face, they're damaging you. So you got to think, okay, well, if I play this card here, I could do this damage over here, but I really want to prevent this damage over on the other side, and I've got to do that, or else I'm going to get my face smashed in. So you're constantly like juggling and balancing the timing of that. And I've also seen where, like, if you get an advantage in the game, you might think you want to press down, but you're going to quickly sort of run out of cards and activations and things. So if you get an advantage, I mean, this is obviously going to vary, but you might just want to pass your turn and draw 2 cards, and now you've got like extra stuff and more options and things. And that kind of gets back to the whole mulligan thing. As I kept looking, I'm like, is there no rules for mulliganing in here? Why? What card game on this planet doesn't have mulligan? Well, the thing is there's no land, there's no mana. So you can't just draw like 7 land or 7 cards that aren't land. And there's no resources to manage. It's all about the hand management and the tactics. Now I could see still, once I get into more of the deck building, that you would want that, because you're going to take your 4 blessings, right? And you might say, I'm going to make a bunch of card draw blessings, or a bunch of really big damage blessings, or I built my champions all out of warriors and stuff, and maybe the 1 wizard. So if I draw a bunch of spells, I don't want to do that, because then I'm playing I'll have spells, and I'll have a bunch of cards I can't play until the 1 spell goes through. So I could see them, once they get into maybe more of the organized play stuff, adding a mulligan rule. But I do also kind of think you could build your deck in such a way that, you wouldn't almost need a mulligan. I don't know. I kind of go back and forth on that. Like I said, the game's still kind of fresh and new, and it's a different style of game. But just the balance and the weight and the pace of how sort of impactful your actions are is very different than any of these other style of games. So I really enjoyed this game. I was kind of surprised that I liked it because, so caveat, I really enjoy the Warhammer Age of Sigmar universe. If you've been watching my channel in the last, month and so, I've had a few videos just about Warhammer Age of Sigmar. So I'm already like kind of drawn in. I'm like, oh, there's that character. Or, no, that's neat. That's the arcane bolt spell that everybody uses in that game. And so thematically, it actually kind of works because you have your champions. They're kind of doing things, and the blessings that are underneath them, or sort of the favor of their gods, whether it's chaos or Sigmar or whatever, death. And so they're doing their thing, and they're sort of taking actions that are akin to what their nature is supposed to be in terms of the lore. So they're spinning up and then getting some cool blessing from their god, whether it be an evil or a good god. And then they have these units that are they're fighting for a little bit and they're getting killed because they're just kind of naturally going away. But the damage is overall just to each player. So it feels very skirmishy because you're casting spells, they're building up, they're doing damage, they're going away. You're building up units and stuff. And there's cards that'll let you sort of rotate or counter-rotate the cards. And so it feels very scrappy in that case. And it's really bang, 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 action, action, go, action, action, go. So because of that, and because of that decision making and sort of the varied placement stuff, do I go here, do I go here, do I go here, do I hold this, do I just draw, do I play this card and then draw? Okay, if I play this now, then I can play this other card on top of it. So there's a way to chain all of that. And I'm actually very excited about the deck building in terms of that, because you could really theme out your deck for a particular style. Like the Chaos deck that I have is Khorne. He's very bloodthirsty and damagey. So there's cards that'll damage yourself when you play them, but then you rotate them in the next turn, it does more damage to your opponent. So you're taking hits. Or if you play a unit, if you're playing Khorne, it'll kill the units to the side. So you try to clear everybody off and then kill them off when they're worthless because they're about to die anyway, because they're about to rotate out. So that's interesting kind of timing things. And then with the Sigmar deck, the Order deck, there's lots of healing and stuff. And it's a little bit more slow plotting, but then once it kicks in, it really ramps up and you get a big heal or something. So I think it's going to be interesting to see how the deck building works in terms of building a deck that is balanced across and consistent and all those kind of fun gamey things. I think this is going to be an interesting system for that. And the whole online, digital play where you scan the cards in, you buy some boosters, and you're not just sitting around waiting for Friday or whatever day you want to play. You can jump into the app and play, and you've got the same decks. You get the exact same decks, theoretically, in real life that you have on the app, so you can practice with them online, and then maybe go to the store or go to your friend's house and then play them there too. So this is an interesting sort of ecosystem to see evolve. And I'm kind of a sucker for this theme. So I definitely would pick up a couple of the starters. The two starters that I played here, the Order and the Chaos one, really fun. They come with the themed mats. They give you little tokens to track to life and all that stuff. And like I said, I'll just show you a little bit, maybe clear without some glare. You've got the turn structure and all the icons and stuff that are going to be a little bit overwhelming once you start playing, but then you're just look here and go, oh, that means damage. Okay, so then I can damage that and then rotate my guy. And it's very quick and snappy once you get in that first play. And then you want to go back to it. And so I can kind of feel that addictive quality of it. And it's collectible, so whatever. You don't want collectible, don't get it. But again, they add some extra value to be able to reuse it online and in real life. So I'm interested in this. I'm going to play it. Hey, this is coming out the day before Gen Con. I'm going to build some decks and bring them. So if you see me, you're hey, let me try Warhammer Champions. If I have time, if I'm walking through the middle of the vendor hall, then I won't have time. But, if you see me hanging out in the BG room or in Holly or something or whatever, I'll definitely break this out with you and play it and show how it works, or show you and your friend. I've just committed to 60,000 people that I'm going to teach them. But definitely go by their booth and check it out, the game there. And then if you catch me and, I'm sitting around, I'll definitely talk to you about it at least. So anyway, okay, thanks. Definitely check the game out and give the stars a try and see what you think, for sure. Okay.